welcome again to Harriet's Florida Kitchen. I forget what we decided to call this program. Okay, wait a minute. Let me see. Where's the camera? There it is. All right, I have this as usual, not on my banana tripod, but today on my potato tripod. I mentioned in the last episode here in the show kitchen that I was going to do several things in the same day because it's the day before Easter, so I'm prepping a bunch of stuff. So now I'm going to make corn chowder. Now, this is one of our favorite. Actually, I'm not making corn chowder at all. I'm making fried corn. It is the basis for corn chowder that is in the Great Dinners from Life cookbook. This is one of the best cookbooks of all time. It is so wonderful that whenever I buy it, whenever I see it anywhere, I buy another copy. As you can see, mine is definitely falling apart. Pages are coming apart. I make this all the time. Never fails. There is not a recipe in here that will let you down, and it has the most amazing pictures, like this one for trout almondine, which we're not making today, but it's so brilliant. And I think it was published in the 60s or something. Anyway, I'll look that up. But the thing we're doing today is amazingly, we were able to get to a fresh market, and I made my husband put on his, although he's the one who's most at risk, still he wanted to have the adventure. So he put on his gloves and he put on his mask, and he went and kept many miles away from anybody else, and he found us some fresh corn. So we are making this wonderful fresh corn recipe. Now I'm going to spare you the fun of watching me husk all of these pieces of corn. It's not that horrible. Sometimes, just for my husband and me, although it calls for just 2 cups of fresh corn, which is enough for 6 people. That's another thing. All of these are menus in this book, and they tell you exactly what things go together wonderfully, and it will not let you, of course, can do whatever you want. You can do them anyway, but these are great menus. And they also tell you when to get started, how long to plan for each, and they tell you how many people it'll serve. So you might find a dish for 4, you might find one for 12, and you can rely on it every time. If you want to make veal scallopini, if you want to make anything at all, you can rely on this book, period, end of the story. All right, now, so I'm shucking this corn, and I'm going to turn off the camera in just a second till I get all of these done, and I'll come back when I'll show you about cutting it off the cob. Now, one thing you probably do know about corn, or maybe you don't, maybe that's why you watch cooking shows, because you don't know, but corn, like asparagus, is at its very best if you do it straight out of the garden. We used to have friends. We have friends whose father was a doctor. They lived in Atlanta, and she would start the water. They had a wonderful garden in the back. And she would start the water boiling, and he'd shout from the garden, "Is it boiling, Marguerite?" She'd say, "It's boiling." And he would take the corn, or get the asparagus, run in the house, pop it into the pot. Now that's the way to cook, and that's the way to garden. Okay. I'll be back shortly, having peeled all my corn. Now, the first thing we have to do is make sure that we have a very clean, oh dear, I have butter on, that we have a very sharp knife. So right before you cut the corn off the cob, or before you chop up the onion, just make sure. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut up the onion. All you have to do is kind of do just a very rough chopping of it. It should be fine. I'll do a little of this. Not sure you can see. You probably can't. Okay, now, so we're going to chop up the onion. And that's not my greatest skill, but as long as you don't cut your finger off, pretty much, as long as you end up with something chopped up in pretty good shape. Kind of curl your fingers back. That's a good idea. And we chop this up just a bit, like that. And it calls for a 1/4 cup, but I figure this is a lot of corn. It says 4 ears, and I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ears. And as I may have mentioned earlier, maybe I got sidetracked, even though it calls for this should serve 6 people. I assure you this will serve my husband and me, which is why I'm going to come out of coronavirus in a moo-moo. All right, so we're going to chop this up. This is going to be perfect. And we're going to put it over here to put into the pan in just a minute. So all chopped up, doesn't have to be too fine. And then we're going to cut the corn off the cob. Now, this is not a hard thing, but if you've never done it before, you probably need to know how. You cut it off the sides, like that. Roll around. You try not to cut right down onto the cob. It's better if you kind of get it halfway through But of course it's tempting because the more you cut through, the more corn you have. And then you kind of milk it because there's wonderful juice in there. So you rub your knife right down the side and you'll get a ton. Okay, I'm not going to make you watch me do this to every single cob, so I'll be back shortly once they're done. Okay, now I've done the last of the corn, and I'm putting it in this little bowl, which I'm sure is going to be too small for it. And you can see that I've been milking it, and I've been getting all the gras off the corn in addition to the corn. Oh dear, this is not going to work. Okay, you can also see that cutting corn off the cob is a lot like glitter. I'll be finding corn all over my kitchen for weeks to come. Not quite as festive as glitter, but it does taste better. Okay, now we're going to move over here in the show kitchen to the frying pan. And we're going to turn on the frying pan, which is all ready. I have a quarter of a cup of butter in it, and we're going to melt the butter in the pan, and we're going to put the pre-chopped, one-handed cooking, not that easy, right? Put the pre-chopped onion in. I know I should have waited for the butter to melt, but that's okay. It'll do it in a minute. And get one of my spatulas and start to stir it around. Meanwhile, get the rest of corn on the other side of the kitchen. Let's let that sit for just a sec. And we get the corn. Oh dear, what a mess, what a mess, what a mess. Okay, this goes over here. This is going to go like this. We're ready as soon as this has begun to melt. We're going to put in, now the rest of the recipe calls for, let's see if I can show you the recipe. This is the corn chowder recipe. So we've already done, well, not 2 cups of fresh corn, but really, 8, probably four cups. I bet we have 5 or 6 cups really. And I've put a quarter of a cup of butter in, and I have not minced a quarter of a cup of onion, and because I did a whole onion, because how could it be worse? What's better than a lot of onion? So that's what we've put in, and we've put in, I've mixed together now, this is ready. I've mixed together the lemon juice. It calls for a tablespoon of lemon juice, a half a teaspoon of dry mustard, so I use Coleman's, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to put the freshly ground black pepper in shortly. And that's pretty much going to be it. All right, so let's get ready. I've got to get the pepper out so I don't forget it. There it is with my wonderful Peugeot grinder with the emergency light on the bottom. Okay, good. So this is now, do its thing. I'll change sides. Okay. There we go. Mix that like that. Make it so that it's translucent. Right. Oh, it's looking so nice. Right, while that's doing that, I'll be cooking in just a second. And normally what I would do is I would put all this together. I would cook the onions. I would cook the onions. I would cook the onions in the butter, and then I would put in the lemon juice and the mustard and a dash of Tabasco sauce as it calls for, and the pepper. And I would let it sit. Once it was all once the onions were kind of slightly cooked, I would put it back, cut the corn off of the cob. But then I would wait till right before dinner time. Now, I don't know about where you live, but in Florida, we have amazing corn on the cob. It's fabulous. It's either Silver Queen or it's various kinds of things. Sometimes it's all yellow, sometimes it's all white, sometimes it's yellow and white, which is very festive, very polka dotty. But it's really, really good. And you don't have to cook it for very long. You cook it for a couple of seconds, really. So I just, and then I would normally, the reason I'm saying normally is because we're going to go ahead and have this tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and cook this now because we'll eat it shortly. But once this is ready, and then we heat it, I would normally heat it back up again right at the last minute. Throw in all of this corn, push it around until the corn gets hot. That's really it. You're not able to cook the corn because it's so good, almost raw. You just cook it till it gets hot. And then you serve it, and it's just out of this world. Okay, so now I'm going to put in these spices. I'm going to put in the corn. I'm going to put all of this in. And I'm going to do the pepper. I'll turn the light off so you can see. It's so exciting when the light turns on. Oh, the emergency light's not turning on. Oh no. Yeah, there it goes. Oh good. The emergency light. There we go. Turn it on again. Come on. Really need to get another light or it's going to be a little too peppery. And then we're going to do a little Tabasco. Now, mix all this up. Turn it down. Just don't be that hot. Okay. Oh, it's looking really, really good. So all of the butter, and all of the mustard, and the lemon juice, and pepper, and a little bit of salt all went into this. And now it's going to cook just a few minutes, and it will be done. A little bit longer, a little bit higher. Okay. I'm going to just do a little bit more of that. Since I only had one hand, I didn't take my little spatula and clean out that, so it just worked fine. Put the bowl, fill the bowl full of a little corn, put it in with the spice, and get the rest of it out. Okay. All right, and that's going to be just about ready, and it's going to be incredible. And so I'm just going to go ahead and have just a little forkful, so that you can see that it really is edible. Oh my goodness. Oh. Straight. What? I can't do that with my hand on the way. Oh boy. Oh my. I would say it's totally done, and it's time to take it off, and it's just unbelievable. The corn is a little bit sweet, and the onions are kind of oniony, and then you have a little bit of the lemony, and you have a little bit of mustard. It's just got punch. It's sharp. It's sweet. It's tart. It's everything. It's just the best. Okay, this is Harriet signing off from Florida. Harriet's Florida Kitchen. I'm about to have some amazing corn. Oh, by the way, if you did want to turn it into a corn chowder, I guess I should tell you the rest of it, that you would just add 2 cups of chicken stock, 2 cups of light cream. How bad is that? And we've already done the tomatoes, the Tabasco sauce. And you would do that right at the last minute. And once the cream is added, you definitely wouldn't let any of that boil. You'd serve it immediately. And that's how you do it. But I like it as fried corn. It's particularly good with, say, steak. Okay.